My sister-in-law, let's call her Shirley, is a class act. She has basically been taking out credit cards as well as loans from banks, friends, and family since she turned 16, because in her words, she didn't want to be a poor, low-class loser like her parents. She has now run up about $300K in debt. And this is in a poor country, so it's even worse. She has at least 3 maxed out credit cards, as does her husband. They have even used their daughter's name and ID number to take out more cards. I'm not sure how many. She has borrowed untold thousands from her loser parents as well as from other family members whom she has criticized endlessly for being low class and private. She borrowed several thousand from my husband several years ago, but he stayed on her to pay him back, though it took a few years. When he gave her the loan, she had said it was to pay off her house. She has a 5-bedroom villa in a very nice area of a nice city. Instead, she put down payments on 2 brand new cars, even though both of her older ones were relatively new and working fine. Her daughter attends an exclusive private school and always has the latest tech. They go on beach trips a few times a year. Her philosophy is pay the creditors off just a bit by borrowing money from friends and relatives who are easier to put off, then die in massive debt. She thinks she's a genius, that no one else can manage money like her. And she has poked fun at how my husband and I prefer low-key living as opposed to having all the newest, flashiest things. But here's what makes her a truly terrible person. She basically bled her parents, especially her mom, dry. Her parents, my in-laws, own their own home. They're not rich, but their pensions cover most of their needs, and my husband helps them out as well. My mother-in-law found out she had cancer a few years ago. My husband wanted all 3 kids to pitch in and take her to the Capitol for treatment and set her up in an Airbnb while she recovered. Shirley refused to contribute, saying the state-run medical system was fine. Her husband is a doctor there, and he'd oversee things, she said. My husband was enraged, but his mom agreed to it, so not much he could do. After a grueling year, my mother-in-law was cancer-free. Shirley's husband did periodic checkups, occasionally send her for labs. She remained in remission. Then a year later, she began complaining of a pain in her back. Shirley and her husband brushed it off for months, saying she just needed to rest more. Then one day, my mother-in-law couldn't move her legs. After being rushed to the local hospital, the doctors found she had a massive tumor in her spine that had essentially broken her back. The same song and dance occurred again. My husband insisted she get private care in the Capitol, and Shirley rejecting that. She'd take care of her in her own home, she said, as her husband had confirmed the cancer was too far advanced and she'd just need hospice care. Again, enraged husband but mother-in-law agreed. They could hire a team of nurses, Shirley said. But could my husband pay for that because Shirley can't right now? She'll pay him back. So my mother-in-law went into hospice care at Shirley's house. We were there as much as we could be, but we had a baby and lived far away. Once while we're there, my mother-in-law pulls my husband aside and tells him she's scared because Shirley has been pressuring her to sign some documents and the painkillers were fucking up her brain and she didn't understand. Shirley told us they were just power of attorney docs to allow her to make emergency decisions. We were uncomfortable, but since mother-in-law was living there and Shirley's husband is a doctor, we thought it would be okay. Then my mother-in-law passed. The day of the funeral came and Shirley and her family were nowhere to be found. We called and called, no answer. We asked one of the aunts about it and she rolled her eyes and told us what had happened. This aunt had been planning the funeral with Shirley and my father-in-law. During the planning, she discovered Shirley had convinced my mother-in-law about a year ago, right before the doctors found the cancer. And while her doctor husband had been caring for her, to take out a life insurance policy on herself, with Shirley as the sole beneficiary. We would later find out that she somehow bribed a notary to fake the death certificate date and cause of death so she got more money. I'm not sure how that worked, but that's what I was told. In the country we were living in, pretty much anything is possible with a bit of cash. She had also convinced my in-laws to sign over ownership of the house to her so she could secure another large loan from the bank, using the house as collateral. The house was actually supposed to go to my husband and brother-in-law. My husband and brother-in-law get on the phone with Shirley and confront her. Shirley starts screaming at them, telling them their lives have been so much easier than hers and that she has done so much more for their parents than they have. And just telling a whole load of lies about how my husband has always been a freeloader. He has worked since he was 13, paid for his own education, and has a high-level job after working like a dog for 2 decades. She said Everyone is always taking advantage of her, and that's why she's in so much debt. Everyone else was at fault except her. We went no contact after that, but brother-in-law and father-in-law have gotten sucked back into her orbit again and both have loaned her money. She has even been trying to get my father-in-law to let her sell the house for him, and then she gives him an allowance every month out of the money from the sale, and he can live with her. Meanwhile, my husband and I moved to the U.S. and are just enjoying our debt-free, entitled, personless lives. Let me tell you about the night my life took an unexpected detour. It all started when I rolled into my neighborhood after a long day at work. I usually park my car right in front of my crib, no biggie. But that night, deadlines were breathing down my neck, so I was fashionably late. I stumble out of my car, tired as hell, only to realize I've parked that beast halfway into Karen's turf. Karen, the neighborhood watch captain and the self-proclaimed ruler of the curb. Real piece of work, let me tell you. So, picture this. I'm standing there eyeballing my car and her pristine lawn thinking, man, this is gonna be a problem. Inside my house, it's a whole different circus. My wife's sister is there taking care of my knocked up. She's giving me the side eye like I just kicked a puppy. Bro, you're late again. What's up with parking on Karen's turf? She says, all judgmental. I try to smooth it over. Look, just a couple of hours until you bounce. I had a rough day. But she's not having it. Sort your life out, man. So I went inside, scarfing down some microwave leftovers, trying to drown out the complaints from the peanut gallery about my parking skills. Dinner's hitting the spot, and I'm about to kick back, thinking the drama's over. Then I hear this weird noise from outside. I try to listen, but the damn TV is on full blast. Could have sworn I heard something, but hey, it's probably just Karen mowing her lawn at midnight or something. Finish my grub, give my wife a kiss, and Sally, the self-appointed car parking police, storms out. Her parting words are something like, fix your crap, bro. Real helpful. As soon as she leaves, it hits me like a ton of bricks. I gotta move the car before Karen calls in the parking SWAT team. I dash out, keys in hand, ready to tackle this minor inconvenience. But as soon as I step out, I spot it. I stand there, staring at the wreckage, swearing under my breath. You gotta be kidding me. I am, staring at the wreckage of my car like I'm watching a crime scene unfold. I swear, when I parked that thing, it was intact, but now it's got more cracks than a teenager's smartphone screen. Then, as I'm surveying the damage, I catch Karen, the neighborhood queen of chaos, glaring at me through her window curtains. I could feel the laser beam shooting out of her eyes, turning me into the human equivalent of a popsicle. Enough was enough. I march over to Karen's fortress and give her door a knock that could wake the dead. She opens it, feigning innocence like she's auditioning for an Oscar. Karen, did you see who did this to my car? I ask, trying to keep my cool. And you know what this lady has the nerve to say. Oh, I saw it, all right. It was me. Now I'm standing there, jaw on the ground, trying to process this madness. You did what? She smirks like she just won the lottery. You parked in front of my house, blocking my view. I had to do something. A heated conversation erupts, and let me tell you, it's a verbal wrestling match. Words are thrown like punches, and I'm dodging insults left and right. Karen's got a mouth on her that can make a sailor blush. After the showdown with Karen, I needed backup, and who better to call than the boys in blue? I fished out my phone, dialed 911, and reported the whole shebang. I could practically hear the theme music from an old cop show playing in the background as I explained the situation. In no time, a couple of officers roll up, ready to put on their detective hats for a neighborhood drama case. I walk them through the crime scene, or rather, the destruction scene, and lay out the whole Karen saga. They nod, faces stone-cold serious. All right, sir, we'll handle this. They march over to Karen's fortress, knock on the door with the authority of a SWAT team. I'm watching from a safe distance, trying to be inconspicuous like a ninja in broad daylight. Karen opens the door, all smug like she's auditioning for the villain role in a soap opera. The cops lay down the law, telling her she's got to pay for the damages or face the consequences. It's like watching karma in action, and it tastes sweeter than Grandma's apple pie. She tries to argue, but the cops aren't having it. They drop the hammer. Pay up or prepare for a one-way ticket to legal trouble. I can see the frustration building on Karen's face, but it's too late. The wheels of justice are turning, and they're not waiting for anyone. I stand there, a grin forming on my face as the cops head back to me. With that, they leave, and I'm left feeling like I just won the neighborhood lottery. My dad just shared a story about my late Uncle Dale, his lifelong friend and fellow engineer. So in his memory and in spirit of the upcoming holidays, I present for you the tale of nepotism, engineering students, and Idina Menzel. Uncle Dale was a senior engineer at a small firm in the Midwestern USA, an engineering instructor at the local community college. He was also, unofficially, in charge of the office parties. To help offset the costs, he had a small tin box on a table outside of his office with a slot in it so anyone could donate money to the party fund. Everyone knew about it and were happy to donate. A month or so before the company's big Christmas party, Uncle Dale decided to check the box. Lo and behold, it was empty. Uncle Dale knew something was wrong because he had seen several colleagues putting money in the box. This could only mean one thing. Someone was stealing from the party fund. At this moment, Brad, the owner's nephew and a fellow engineer, came around the corner, and something about the way Brad was looking at him made Uncle Dale suspicious. Brad didn't have a good reputation around the office, to say the least. He had a reputation of being pushy, obnoxious, rude, and just plain entitled. Unfortunately, he was not only the owner's beloved nephew, but knew how to skirt the rules so he wouldn't get fired. Uncle Dale decided to set a trap to catch the thief. Using his engineering skills, he set up a hidden rig using a hidden doorbell camera right by the box. He then had a colleague loudly brag about how he contributed $100 to the party fund. Then he waited. He got a notification that the camera was recording and watched Brad open the empty box, scowl in disgust, and throw the box against the wall. Now you'd think this would end with Uncle Dale presenting the video evidence to his boss to get Brad fired, but oh no. As I mentioned in a previous post, if there's one thing engineers love, it's solving problems. And if it's engineering students, they'll make it an experience to remember. Uncle Dale then went to his engineering students. He offered them extra credit to come up with a rigged box that would make noise when opened. The more obnoxious the sound, the higher the bonus. 1 week later, they delivered their project and demonstrated how it worked. Pleased with the results, Uncle Dale awarded them the extra credit as promised. The next day, he set up the rigged box and proclaimed, "Well, isn't this nice? Someone donated $50 to the party fund." Then he went to his office and waited. The engineering students had rigged the box with one of those inserts from cards that play music when you open them. By popular vote, they had picked "Let It Go" from the Disney movie Frozen, right around the time the song was beginning to become unpopular. They also managed to ensure that once open, the box couldn't close unless you pressed a hidden side button releasing the hinge. So the song would continue to play. For extra funsies, they made sure to angle the insert for maximum volume and secured it down with industrial-strength glue. Sure enough, everyone in the office heard Idina Menzel belting the hated song and Brad's frustrated grunts while trying to close the box. One of those attracted by the sound was Brad's uncle. Finally, Brad chucked the box at the wall, managing to put a good-sized dent in it. The uncle then summoned Brad to his office. 15 minutes later, Brad left with a cardboard box and cleared out his desk, along with a note in his file: "Do not rehire. Do not recommend." So his engineering career was over. That Christmas, Uncle Dale had a little video prepared to show at the party. The doorbell camera had caught Brad's attempt to steal from the box. Oh, to the tune of "Let It Go." The memory of that day still stings a little. It was just over a year ago when my son was born, and the excitement of applying for his passport quickly turned into an unexpected ordeal. The city we lived in had no available appointments at any of the offices, so we decided to try our luck as walk-ins. The information we gathered was disheartening. Only 5 walk-ins were allowed each day, and it was a first-come, first-served basis starting at 2 p.m. Determined to secure one of those coveted spots, my husband and I arrived early, around 11 a.m., 12 noon. The managing person informed us that they no longer took passport photos and that we needed to get our baby's picture from an outside source. That's when our well-laid plans took an unexpected turn. My husband and I devised a strategy. I would stay in line while he went home to fetch our son and then find a store willing to take a passport photo of our 1.5-month-old baby. Unfortunately, many stores declined due to the age of our little one. Time was ticking, and I found myself coordinating with my husband over the phone. As the minutes passed, more people joined the queue behind me. Among them was the EP, entitled person who decided she couldn't wait. Initially, she seemed amicable, discussing with the managing person about joining the line. The managing person suggested she wait, and if someone didn't show up, she could take their place. However, the EP had other ideas. She approached me and the person next in line, asking for something I couldn't quite recall. In the midst of these interactions, my husband's optimism about securing a photo was waning, and we contemplated coming back another day. In an attempt to defuse the situation, I politely told the EP that she could take my place if my husband didn't return with the photo in the next 15 minutes. But no compromise satisfied her. The EP demanded instant gratification and had the audacity to march back to the managing person, shouting at her to remove me from the queue and give her my spot because I lacked the necessary photo for the passport application. I couldn't fathom what was going through her mind. Fortunately, the managing person and the others in line did not entertain her unreasonable demands. The EP left in a huff, leaving everyone in the queue dumbfounded by her audacious behavior. The tension lifted and the devilish presence departed, leaving behind a collective sigh of relief. The silver lining was that my husband, against the odds, managed to secure the elusive passport photo, and we were able to submit our application later that day. As fate would have it, those who chose to wait and secure an appointment missed out, while the entitled person's impatience led to her own downfall. If only she had exercised a little patience, she might have realized that good things come to those who wait. This is an event that happened very recently. I was working at the post office and was almost done casing up my route when my ex-boss, who lives on my route, came into the post office to pick up her 2 packages that had just arrived this morning. Some necessary information before I continue. I wasn't aware this ex-boss lived on my route until after I agreed to take the job. When I realized she lived on my route, I honestly didn't give a crap. She was just another customer on my route, and I haven't spoken to her face-to-face since before I quit my old retail job. She wasn't there the day I quit, and I believe she was on her 3rd vacation of the year. I was almost ready to leave the office when a clerk approached me and told me one of my customers was at the counter telling everyone that I used to work for her. She fired me, and I'm now using my job as her mail carrier to open her mail and get information on her. She was so loud in telling her traumatic experience of how she could have had her identity stolen by the dishonest mail carrier that her voice echoed all the way back into the mailroom. Why did she think I was opening her mail? The sorting machine had torn the corner of one of her letters just a tiny bit. Now, thanks to her actions, I will no longer be her mail carrier. I'm going to be moved to a route that pays significantly more. Thank you, Karen. And note, when this first happened, I posted to my old job sub an open letter to Karen. But now that I for sure know I'm getting a better route, I'm posting here.